Greetings all, and welcome to North Node Astrology. Today we have a gift reading for an online friend of mine, Tiffany. We have Tiffany as the 2nd of April, 1992 at 8:30 p.m. at a city in the Central Time Zone of the United States. And at the time of birth, we have Scorpio rising. And we also have a 13-degree Aries moon in the 6th house, which gives her a bit of a Virgo vibe. Anything in the 6th house tends to be like that, as well as her moon being conjunct there also. And so that's typically the big three, rising, sun, and moon. And with the sun and moon together, that tends to be a little interesting. People that are one with their emotions, or people that identify with their emotions, or people that are having trouble identifying with themselves and their emotions, anywhere in your astrology chart that you don't have any placements, that's where typically things are going to be fine. Other than where your placements are, that's going to be your struggle. That's going to be your work, right? So let's dig into the work of this, and let's start looking at it, right? So let's look at the first house here with the Scorpio rising at 1 degree. Now it's not 0 degrees, so it's pretty close to, an actual, I would say, a pure Scorpio reading here. And as we go through this and various things, it's gonna be a little more robust than that. So you guys can see that it's about, the first house is about, our body and how we begin things and how new things come to us and how we start new things. And generally how we project out into the world, right? I used to say that it was the mask that we wear, and that's not necessarily true. It's more like the helmet or the uniform that we wear when we're out in the world, like what team we're on. And the team that Tiffany is on is, one of the teams, as all of us are on various teams, is Team Scorpio. And she's going out into the world looking for things that are of emotional value, things that, give her an emotional response. And I think she's trying to figure out daily, like, where she's at, where to project out into, and how, whether that's her ego doing it because she's a bit of a driven Aries, right? Aries is a very, it's a very youthful sign. It's very direct. It's very powerful. It comes out of Pisces. It's the let there be light portion of the zodiac, the magic that comes out of Pisces. And Scorpio is a little emotionally repressed, right? But as is indicative with Tiffany's 3rd house in Capricorn, that's what Scorpios are thinking about. They're thinking about legacy. They're thinking about foundation, right? They're like, how am I gonna climb the ladder, right? And they do that by being crafty, by thinking through things, by thinking a long way down the road. And a lot of times they tend to suppress their emotions so that they can be tough and be hard. I mean, think about a scorpion itself, right? It's hard on the outside. It's very dangerous. But what moves the scorpion, as well as the crab, Cancer, is all the squishy stuff inside. And those of you who have gotten close to Scorpios, or anybody with Scorpio placements or 8th house stuff in general, knows that those folks can be squishy, but they have to be trusted. And that's something else that Tiffany is looking for. She is looking for trust out in the world. She's looking to maybe trust herself to go out in the world, and things that, again, things that create emotional response, right? The word a lot of us have heard, in the last number of years is triggered, right? So anything that triggers her it's gonna be a new thing. So, and she goes out into the world, possibly even to trigger other people. And the playful nature of Aries will do that on its own, but Tiffany has a unique way of doing that. So let's go into her sun. Let's start there, right? We can see that the sense of purpose and how we're meant to shine, right? That's one of the fires that's in us, right? The sun is the symbol for Leo, effectively, because it always shines, it always creates, it's always there, it's steady, right? It's fixed, and it never stops. Now, sometimes it might set or something might eclipse it, but it is ever changing, but it's changing on the inside, right? The face of it is typically the same. In the 6th house, Tiffany is working to be more steady, working to be more energetic, working to be more of that fire that she can feel inside of her. And with her moon there, right, that's the energy that we reflect out. That's not our direct energy. That's an image of who we are on the inside, right? And unless you interact with her, anybody with anything in anybody's 6th house, you really probably don't know them until you see them daily, or you communicate with them daily, or you live with them, right? You don't see the whole, how their improvement process works, right? So the red lines going from Tiffany's sun and moon, going there to Uranus and Neptune there in Capricorn, which is, generally, those 91, 92, 93 folks. I have some friends that have that placement in other spots in their chart, but right there, 17, 18, 19 degrees of Capricorn. They are very psychic. They're very powerful. And learning to tap into that with that Saturn there in Aquarius is vital to their survival and vital to them creating a foundation in their lives. But I'm kind of getting off track here just a bit. Okay. So we've already talked about the ascendant. We've already talked about Scorpio, and we know that Scorpio tends to suppress emotion so it can get its job done, right? It's trying to create legacy, trying to create something safe. And with a Scorpio ascendant, it's very interesting because Scorpios, they like to hunt, right? They'll go out and they'll get something and they drag it back to their little cave, right? And having that as an ascendant, it's very interesting. It's probably one of the more interesting ones. So there's this want to explore out in the world, or maybe explore in her own little world. So as we go through the rest of the planets here, we're gonna probably get more into that, right? So let's look at Mercury. And Mercury is in your 5th house, Tiffany. I'm going to talk a little more directly to you, and then other people can kind of follow along. So in the 5th house, it's about creation, right? It's about fun. It's about entertainment. It's about kids. Depending on if you have any pets or if you have any little fur babies, as some people call them, this is where you're going to get engaged with it. With a retrograde Mercury, there is thoughts about the past and slowing down and thinking about what you're saying before you say it. At 0 degrees Aries, it's very youthful, right? And also going back to the Scorpio rising, it's not surprising that you're slowing down and paying attention to what you say before you say it. But with that 5th house, they're starting in Pisces. There's a lot going on there, right? Pisces is the everything. It's the all waters. It's the emotional depths that there is no bottom to, right? It's the ultimate expansion. It's also the dissolving of things. It's the last sign of the zodiac. So when you create, Tiffany, you are creating from that position of infinite, right? Of the infinite. You create out of the infinite. That's very interesting. We can keep looking at that as we move further, right? Okay. Also, Venus there in Pisces. Actually, that Mercury is in Aries, and I don't know if anybody else out there has listened to Tiffany, or if anybody's gonna make the jump between which online platform or not. And I'm not gonna point any fingers in whatever directions, but Now, normally somebody might think somebody with an Aries sun, Aries moon in the 6th house with a 0-degree Aries Mercury, even though it's retrograde in the 5th house, a bold, powerful speaker and, speaks her mind and stands with a fist. And I'm like, well, yes, in certain ways. But with her 6th house ruling her sun and her moon, it's starting in Aries, right? You see that 6th house line starting in Aries. You have to go to Mars because Mars rules Aries as well as co-ruling Scorpio, right, under Pluto. And that Mars is in Pisces. So there's a softness, right? And it's in that 4th house, which is kind of Cancerian, right? It's about the home. And so the concept is Tiffany's trying to create a stable home environment that can be changeable and moving forward, in something that is stable, not just right now, but will always be stable. And there is you're wanting to move into magic, right? You're wanting to create magic in the home. And then that want, that drive is what actually creates you. Like, you were created in the home. The interesting thing about Mars and Pisces is any other Mars drives, right? It plunges in, it goes forward, it's passion, it's adventure, it's all those Aries themes, the Scorpio themes. But in Pisces, it's very different. It's you have to let go, because if you push, it breaks. All right, because there's nowhere for Mars to go in Pisces. It can go in any direction, anytime. Now, Mars is a good soldier, but he needs direction. He needs to know where to go. And in Pisces, he's a spiritual warrior. He's seeking, what's farther down, what's deeper. And in that 4th house, they're starting in Aquarius. It's about finding the level to, okay, what level are we at? Let's explore this level, and then let's go deeper, right? And that, whatever level that you're at the home or in yourself, feeling safe, Tiffany, that Mars is going to drive you deeper into yourself, deeper into the magic. And it's going to come up through that. Your passion and your power and your energy is going to come up through that, as opposed to having the fire inside of you and having that, kind of create the direction, right? Like being drawn towards something. Mars in Pisces pulls power up through it, right? Venus, we always think about Venus drawing things into it, right? And then Mars driving at things. But Mars in Pisces, Tiffany, yours it brings up power through, right? So letting go and drawing a plan or drawing boundaries for yourself is going to create that power and energy and drive. And it's going to show you which magics are yours and which directions that you decided to go in before you incarnated here. So it's not always easy to have a Mars like that. And you're not the only one that I'm trying to guide with that. There's other folks that I know that have some 6th house suns that are doing that too. Okay, before I go back into Venus and Pisces, I'm going to pull off into Mars there because it's all in Pisces, and Pisces is quite the depths. Let's go back to the 6th house really quick and take a look at and see that's where we all live, right? That's our everyday stuff. This is our path of improvement. This is how we sort things out for ourselves and how we do some self-care, right? Part of it. And this is, you can see the topics here, and you guys can pause it and read all that stuff. And it's our daily life. This is who we are and how we typically engage with ourselves more than anything else. And even with those squares that, those push-pull elements that Tiffany has that are going back and forth inside her 3rd house, inside her mind, Those are, this is where we have to find those small incremental improvements. And this is how we break out of everything in our lives, how we break through, and we do, weird, quirky things to make ourselves feel better, right? Okay. So let's go into, this is the 5th house, and this is where that Mercury and that Venus exist, right? And obviously Mercury in Aries and Venus in Pisces. Now, Mercury doesn't really mind being anywhere. He has a hard time being in Pisces. He has a hard time being in the 12th house. And for Tiffany, that would be in Libra. But in Aries, right? Cool. Okay, cool. Let's do that. But the house is started in Pisces, and that's a bit difficult, right? Because there's a lot there, and it really softens Mercury up. And on top of that, it's very reflective, right? It's very, it's looking back at old magics, right? And it might be thinking about old magic, which is, Pisces for me, that's where the magic begins. That's where we get these concepts, these subconscious things that rise up through us. And Venus being exalted in Pisces there, like, she likes to be, it's very funny that it's in the 5th house, it's in Pisces. Venus likes to be the goddess, like, she likes to be adored. And with that placement and that trine, that 120-degree angle from Pluto over there, there is a power of transformation that her feelings and her, her feminine energies are, they come through and rebirth through that void space, and through allowing the energy, allowing the magic to come up and through. And with the symbol of Pisces itself, it's two worlds coming together, right? You have to draw boundaries. A magician, before they do their magic, they draw a circle around them, like, okay, this is where the magic is going to come in. It's going to come in through me, and I'm going to create this thing. And I'm creating magic for a purpose, right? And, Tiffany's trying to create magic, right? It's so literally in the 5th house coming out of Pisces. So those boundary situations are vital for you. They are vital. And in Pisces, it's, you either create those boundaries to connect with that other world in one spot, right? Or you let them dissolve away. And that's what will tell you if you're on your path, and if anything is supposed to remain. Now, sometimes we bump into things or people or situations, and it's momentary, boop, right? Other things stay much longer. And we all know which kinds of things they are. And as we get older, we tailor that more, and things, they tend to take on the same color and the same kinds of situations and spaces. So, all right, that's the 5th house, and that's also Venus. So let's move on to, we talked about Mars a little bit. So here's the 4th house, okay? And I said this is home, right? This is Tiffany, this is your emotional space. This is anywhere you feel safe. And whether that's with a friend, and I think because of Aquarius, it is friends. So you're at home with them, and you want them in your home, and you want your home to be a place where your friends can be safe. And in addition, with Saturn being there, and I know we were talking about Mars, but this is 5th house and Saturn's there also, there is, business being done. Saturn, right? He's serious. He wants things to get done. I'm always thinking about Mars and Saturn together, because Mars is exalted, like his favorite place to be in the whole world is in Capricorn or in the 10th house, right? Because that's career, that's long-term plans. And if he's with his, general Saturn, he's fine. Saturn in Aquarius, he's at home there. He's like, okay, cool. This is my house. Let's fix some things. Let's move forward. How are we going to continue this legacy? And Mars is like, okay, cool. What am I supposed to do? And Saturn tells him, I need you to create magic. All right. And Mars is like, how am I supposed to do that? And Saturn's like, well, this is the vibe I'm at. And go look for other things out everywhere or in the home. You know, look for things that you feel safe that are on this vibe. And, you know, so Mars highlights that quest in his little quest log, and he starts going out into the world. And every little magical thing that he picks up, he feels more and more at home with it, and it gets him experience, and he digs that, right? And as a feminine energy, Tiffany, this is also the masculine energy that you call to you can be very magical. It can be very, it might seem there's like you're not really sure whether they are magical or not, and you're not sure what direction they're going, and you're not sure what passions they have, but you can tell, and I'll use this word, you can tell whether they're magical or whether they've got that kind of loser energy with them, because that can also, you know, be that Pisces, that victim, right? So don't pick up any stray dogs, and and you know what I mean by that. You know, this is very much, you know, stray dog syndrome, with Mars in the fourth house. You know, wanting to nurture something, and you know, another word that gets used for masculines a lot lately is broken. All right, so you will find your vibe, your friends, your people, your family, all of those things by drawing those boundaries and going, no, I have to take care of me. This is about me, right? You're an Aries. Focus on you. Focus daily, and that stuff will come. Well, it'll come into focus. Well, I like how this is going. We go from Mars to Jupiter next, right? We're going bigger planets, going farther out into the solar system. And Mars and Jupiter are in opposition here. Jupiter retrograde in the 10th house in the sign of Virgo, but the 10th house starts in Leo. So let's talk about that. So Leo is ruled by the sun, right? And with that Aries sun there in the 6th house, there's also an improvement process. There's a very youthful, fiery energy. And Jupiter likes that fiery energy. He is, you know, he rules Sagittarius, and that's a mutable fire sign. And he is also the co-ancient ruler of Pisces, because he's about expansion. Well, a retrograde Jupiter here in Virgo is very specific, right? There is such a focus on expansion of career and of self and of being artistic out in the world, and of creating and of being an artist. Really, Tiffany? Artist. Okay. I didn't see that. And it's very magical art. It might be a little weird. But it's very ethereal. And it shows your femininity too, because it's Virgo, right? Even though Jupiter is I would say he's a masculine planet, he is a benefic, he's beneficial. And he's given that Mars direction in the 4th house, right? So being out in the world and being yourself and shining bright, and gaining experience, which is what Jupiter is, you know, like he drives us, he pulls us to do. He's got big gravity, right? And he's letting Mars know. Now that opposition, some people think that oppositions are difficult. They can be, but I look at it as a download. So, Tiffany, when you gain experience out into the world with your work, in your self-improvement process, that shows you where you can be at home, like where you can be safe. And you know certain manners of how this works, like certain topics and certain ways that you create, creating yourself through this. So, yeah, there is definitely art that needs to be created here, Tiffany. And you are, I mean, the art creates the artist, and the artist creates the art. It's very symbiotic, and it tends to be a little, very much like a wormhole. Like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? The artist or the artwork. This is very true in this case for you. And as I'm doing this, I've had to pause several times and clear my throat. So in general, and I know I'm getting there, third house, I'm getting there. This is, you are being driven to express yourself, because anything that I'm feeling with a client or with somebody that I'm doing a reading for in whatever capacity, they're feeling it. And it's not just the chart in general, it's very specific things. So use your voice, Tiffany. It is soft, it is powerful, it is magical. So use it and know that there is an infinity of power and energy and love that comes up through that. Since I'm having difficulties talking about individual placements, and since Jupiter is in the 10th house, let's talk about the 10th house here a little bit. This is about career. This is about goals. This is about what we're creating out in the world for ourselves, right? Any of us. And with that 10th house in Leo and a 6th house Aries sun, with Jupiter in Virgo, Saturn in the 4th house in Aquarius, possibly marketing, and your 7th house, your relationships are in Taurus. They are valuable, right? And they have to be, they're either connect or they're gone, right? They either choose to stay connected in your boundaries or they got to go, which is, again, very Scorpionic, and that's the polarity there, Taurus and Scorpio. But we're talking about the polarity here of, Capricorn and Cancer, right? 4th house being represented as, the home, the mother, the safety, the nurturing, and the career is where we project out to, right? Or sometimes we create the career so that we can create the family. There's a lot of folks out there that have to do things in that manner too. So, interestingly enough, Tiffany's North Node is in Capricorn and her South Node is in Cancer. So there's definitely that very much of, being solid in the home, having home philosophies so that she can create a solid mind, and that mind creates the home and she can be safe there. So, being that lioness out in the world, out there hunting, out there, getting it done with that fire that's inside of you, that magical fire, is definitely how to go about it. So maybe look at marketing. I feel like you get led to jobs, right? And it tends to be a little weird, but it's always stable. Like the places you're led are stable. And sometimes even when it looks really stable, you get led somewhere else. It just like ends, and you're like, what? It just kind of erodes away. And sometimes it'll snap out, and you have to go somewhere else for one reason or another. You're like, what is going on with this? That is your path being illuminated to you. That is your magic leading you to the places that you need to go. Like you might think that you can learn more or draw more from those places and things, which is not wrong, but it's the magic for you has kind of run out. And that may be also part of what Mars in Pisces is. It seeks magic. It follows the magic. And it allows itself to be led, right? It's like a compass point, right? It is magnetized to north, and it will always lead you to north. So instead of driving, it is being drawn in, right? And really, I guess to an extent, Mars can be seen to do that from other placements or other signs, but it is definitely true with Pisces. He is a spiritual warrior, and he draws you in, and that leads you around to that Jupiter in Virgo, and your career. Like when your career becomes a job, I think that's when Mars leads you somewhere else, because he's already listening to Jupiter and experience is gained, and then it's time to move on to something else magical or something that is moving forward. Before I continue on to Saturn more specifically, Tiffany, I'm hearing a song in my head, and it's about tarot. There's there is the lead singer of Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson, when he was doing solo things for a number of years, wrote a song called "The Tower," and there are a lot of tarot references in the song. Lovers in the tower, the moon and sun divided, the hangman smiles. So maybe do a tarot spread for yourself, or you might be drawn to do tarot for other people. I'm not sure which, but yeah, I'm hearing that song echoing in my head. And I like the artist, I like the song, I like the lyrics, but being drawn to share that with you so that it can help. Okay, so let's go into Saturn. Saturn takes quite a while to move around our charts. He is an energy that he's probably one of the longest energies that we can necessarily track and think about as our lives progress. Takes about 28 and a half years to go all the way around, and given how long most of us live, we usually only get about 2 Saturn returns. We get the first one sometime between 27 and 30, sometimes a little bit earlier than that, and then the next one's around 58, and then you can see how long the next one's about 28 years after that, so our late 70s, and there's other forces at play then, obviously. Tiffany's Saturn return started around the end of 2021, around then, when Saturn moved into your 4th house. There was you've told me a little bit about what was going on in your life, Tiffany, and even though Saturn was a good distance away, he was at 8 degrees then, and yours is at 16, but he's a very large planet. Like, he has a lot of gravity. So even though he's still, in Aquarius, that moving into realm of your 4th house changed a lot of things for you. Like, it shifted. It was probably, you could see the changes coming, but when the change happened, it was still very drastic. And, over the next, you're probably just now completely clearing that energy, because Saturn is at about 25 degrees of Aquarius now. Like, he's coming to the end. So he's, almost 10 degrees, 9 degrees past where yours is, but still in your 4th house. But now you're starting to see what he was showing you, what he was teaching you about, Saturn in Aquarius is about holding our line, right? Knowing who we are, know what kind of human legacy we are, and in the 4th house, it's about taking care of ourselves, taking care of the humans in the house, right? Because Aquarius is the sign of the human, of the water bearer. Right? All of the other astrological signs are beasts or magical creatures of some kind, other than Aquarius, which is the water bearer, which is the human or the alien, the outsider, the different, the weird, and Libra, which is a scales, which is a device, a concept. Everything else is, like I said, an animal or a creature of some sort. But this is about building a legacy of taking care of yourself, taking care of the things that flow, right? There may have been water issues or electrical issues in the house. And as you get older, you will be able to tell, whether you're renting or buying or whatever, you'll be able to tell if there's going to be something. And that's going to be something when you move in, you're like, okay, I know I have to take care of this. I got to take care of this right now. That way I can move forward, right? Because if you don't have water or electricity or internet, or you don't, feel solid or safe somewhere, can you do anything else? Nah, it doesn't break through. And with that square to Pluto that you have, those things are groundbreaking, right? I'm pretty sure that when Saturn moved, like I said, at the end of 2021, rolling into 2022, some things, very much did break. But they also broke through, and, you realized that you were not on your line, you were on somebody else's line, right? You were on the lower line on Aquarius, and they were on the upper line, and that didn't feel good. You weren't allowing yourself to pick your vibe, right? Pick your line, choose your boundaries. Who are you? And again, as you have moved along your path, you've been able to understand this, that by holding that line, you do transform, right? And it's not a transformation that can be directly seen out in the world, but you can see it with the way you go out into the world. It's very specific. You can tell, right? It changes. The things that come to you, again, back to Scorpio themes, right? Pluto there. Anything that can create an emotional response, and this is money or shared finances or intimacy of any and all types. And with Saturn, it is definitely about physical environment, like it is physical universe, because Saturn is in charge of the physical universe, right? Taurus is how we value it, right? What value we place on it. But Saturn is the physical things in our universe. And in Aquarius, and especially in the fourth house, it is about you feeling safe and feeling solid, being able to move forward and break through, and to get yourself the energy so that you can move forward and can improve your process. Back to the Saturn return real quick. I'm about 11 years off from my second one. And my first one, it was very difficult. It was definitely about my career. It was about my relationships also. And it was, about whether my life philosophies were working. But for Tiffany, that was her home environment and her friends and the vibe that she creates, right? Because Aquarius is also like, do you vibe with this? It's like, what's your vibe, man? And if things don't vibe, she's like, nope, that's not my vibe. Next, which is a very, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aquarius, Aries vibes. Like, nope, I don't vibe with that. I'm out. And that's very honest, because why stay around somewhere? Like, if you want ice cream and you're hanging out somewhere where they don't have ice cream, that's not going to work, right? It's not going to make you feel good. Like, okay, go get some ice cream if you want ice cream. Or if you want a hot dog and and you're hanging around at a pizza parlor, it's like, that's not going to work either. So sometimes it's very simple, and other times it's not exactly. But your experience at home and your experience being safe with yourself, and being the anchor for your life and for others, Tiffany, is obviously going to help. And I think yet again you understand the specifics about what I'm talking about. Now, let us move to Uranus and Neptune in the third house. So here we have the third house, and this is our mind and our immediate environment, and any kind of personal transportation, whether it's shoes, skateboard, bicycle, car. If you own a small airplane, this would also be you, and things of that nature, right? And also our siblings, too. This is how we relate to our siblings as well, if we have any. So we have Uranus is the liberator. He is the radical masculine in the chart, right? He wants revolution. He wants innovation. Now, if everything is okay, he's like, okay, cool. If everything meets my standard, I'm good to go. But as soon as something drops, as soon as something hangs around too long, he's like, all right, we got to change this. We got to fix this. We got to keep moving here. And like trends, right? Any kind of trend, anything that's trendy, first it's new, and then it's cool, and it's fun, and it's trendy, and at some point it just starts being normal. and you're like, oh, well, this is normal now. Okay, well, that's the Uranus, right? Shifting from being innovative, and something can't be new for forever. And then it becomes the foundation for the new thing that's weird and cool and new, right? Uranus being the leader of the weird and the cool and the new and the alien and the radical change is there with another very interesting outer planet, Neptune. And Neptune is another transmitter. Like, they both look like, antennas, right? Uranus looks like, like a satellite dish, and Neptune, other than looking like the trident that, actually Neptune, the lord of the oceans, uses. And Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. So you have the rulers of, Aquarius and Pisces there together. So you can't be separating those guys ever. And that is going to be some very radical, very radical, magical, swimmy kind of change anywhere that they go. And in the third house in Capricorn, the more you feel safe at home, Tiffany, the more these guys are going to work for you, right? You might want details. You're like, okay, I'm trying to go in this direction. Where the hell am I going? And as you get used to these weird signals and vibes being sent to you and directing you in your daily life, you're going to feel better at home, right? You're going to feel better channeling. That might also be a thing. Actually channeling, because Saturn in Aquarius is about vibration, right? Any thought, any thought, electricity or water or people, anything that flows, right, is Saturn and Uranus together in Aquarius. And Uranus is fine being in Saturn's house. He doesn't necessarily mind it. And with Neptune there, Neptune's very watery, right? There's, he doesn't care where he goes, as long as there's going to be magic, and there's going to be illusion, and there's going to be depth there. And Uranus is like, okay, cool. Well, where's the vibe in here, So, going back and forth, creating those things. It's probably, Tiffany, why you've been able to create you have created a new self daily as you have been on that social media platform. Where I came across you the first time, and where your soft, powerful, magical little voice, kind of grabbed me. And it did many other people too, right? This is how you're able to do that. And whether you continue to do that or not, those energies are still in you, right? Neptune and Uranus, in our modern era, are very much about media. And in your Capricorn mind, you have a head for it. You have a mind for it. But there's a spiritual element to it too, right? You have Pisces placements. And your Venus being in Pisces and also ruling your 12th house of Libra, your relationships can be magical, or you have to let them go, right? Your balance is very magical. You have to stay in that magical balance with these things and allow them to guide you, right? So, let those radical changes happen, because, everything is, I think you can see how everything is starting to move together, and your life is starting to solidify, especially after a Saturn return. It's definitely gonna, you've come face to face with all the things that you were told when you were a child, and between 25 and 30, we realize that we're not children anymore, but we haven't quite stepped into the adult world. And by 30, by now, like, okay, I have to do this. Nobody else is going to do it. Now you're going to get some people that are going to help you out with various things, and you're helping them out with various things, but your personal life, like, you have to take action on that, right? And for you, it's, again, drawing boundaries, feeling that vibe, letting those energies transmit through you. You might even use other social media platforms or the one that you're on, as a divination tool, as to like, okay, where am I at today? What do I need to see? What are the messages? What's going out in the world, right? Because Uranus is also our connection with other people, right? And you're very good at it. You're very good at connecting with people, and making connections with people. And with Neptune, you can create magical connections, and that's what connections are. They're magical, because Aquarius is just the vibe, and Pisces is that connection. Bam, that spark, right? So imagine you're at a party, and so you're at a party, Capricorn. There's a physical place, and then you're feeling the vibe, Aquarius, and then you start talking to somebody, and they're really cool, and it's a great conversation. Pisces, magic, bam, spark, and then it creates something new. Aries, whoop, something new comes out of that. And you are the walking party. You are that, right? And it starts in your mind. And knowing that about yourself, like, you may have felt like you were held back or held down or a Debbie Downer, before, and now you're starting to realize, no, I'm not. I just didn't have good boundaries. Those people weren't good for me, and I had to move on. And, as with anything in life, there's consequences, and thankfully so, right? This morning, I was hungry. Consequences of me not eating for a long time. Then I made myself breakfast, and then I ate it, and the consequence was I'm full now, right? So there are positive and negative consequences. Not that negative is evil or bad or anything, but it's like the yin yang, and we need all of those things always going back and forth to generate the energy inside of us. So you have this very radical and also this very magical connection in your mind that drives you to wherever it is you're going daily. I look at my life as like me, Daniel, the guy that does, North Node astrology, that teaches people about this stuff. I am the conduit, right? The information didn't come from me. I'm just channeling the information to people, hopefully in a way that they understand. Okay, small element here before we get into the nodes. The symbol there that is the key, that is in the 9th house, that is Chiron. He is in Leo. Ruled by the moon, ruled by that Aries moon. This is our wound, right? So this is something that is never healed. This Chiron's story is he was a healer, he was a doctor, he was an archer, he was actually a centaur. He was the king of the centaurs. And being here in the 9th house kind of gives him quite a bit of power. And given that your moon is Aries and it rules your 9th house, there's a lot of emotional healing that is to be done, but it's about being yourself and about shining, right? That was not something that was done. But the cool thing about Chiron is he is a key and he opens doors, but we have to go into it, right? We have to put the key in the lock. We have to turn the lock. We have to turn the knob. We have to push the door open every time. He is never going to be like Jupiter and just be lucky and heal us, right? He's never going to do that. We have to take positive, direct action all the time to expand that. And it's about, most of the time, our wounds are about rubbing dirt on it and getting back in there, because people know where we're hurt, right? We know where we're hurt. We know things that are never going to be healed. But when we go in, when we take action and we do those things anyway, we go into those spaces of our hurt, we heal other people. And through that, we're healing ourselves, right? And it's a magical, powerful thing. Engaging with my Chiron has been amazing, and I know that it's never going to be done, but I know how it works, right? Tiffany, for you, this is about your philosophies, about your beliefs, and about the culture that you're creating, right? The emotional culture in your life that you're creating, or the, you know, the tribe that you're creating, they know that you are the mother. You are the mother of your little tribe, right? They know this, and you have been, you know, working on doing this. But you're like, I don't know if I have the ability to shine. I don't know if I have that you know, that lioness kind of power to do that. Yeah, you do, right? But you always have to get up and get out and go do that stuff. And while I'm saying that, have you ever watched Russian Doll on Netflix? That is about very much Virgo Pisces things. You know, whether it's, you know, going with the flow, or just allowing things to be, or letting things go, or are we worrying and trying to make things too mechanical, right? And I know that may be weird to start talking about from the ninth house, but again, channeled, just coming through. So if you have watched Russian Doll, remember the things that created in you. If you haven't watched it, man, you should. It's freaking awesome. So let's go into that ninth house and let's talk about the nodes. Bang, here we go. So the nodes of the moon are part of our drives, right? The north node of the moon is akin to a dragon, and we get this element of astrology from the Vedics, from the Indian astrologers, from, you know, worlds older than we understand, that we know, very ancient worlds. And they say that the north node of the moon is a dragon's head. It doesn't process. It doesn't, you know, all it does is eat. He just drives. He's very much like Mars. He's very much like Scorpio. He just goes. He devours. He cannot be stopped. He is a subconscious drive, right? So, Tiffany, you're subconsciously driven to make your mind more solid, right? I suspect that people yanked you around, and people, you know, people made things foggy, and they, you know, there may have been substance issues, I think, maybe, or perhaps sometimes you get caught in loops of being on social media or being off of them, on or up. That's like very light switchy, and you want to be more steady. You're like, okay, well, if we're going to do this right now, let's do this right now, and then it's time to be done, right? And you are making your mind more solid, right? Always. The foundation of that is your south node in Cancer on the ninth, is about your emotions and about allowing yourself to feel them and knowing what direction they're leading you in, and, you know, how you are being mothered by your tribe. That's another thing, right? And mothering your tribe at the same time, because Cancer is very much, you know, like all of the signs are very much dual polarity. And with the south node, it's something that we give to others, and it's also something that we receive from others, right? So make sure that you don't stay overly emotional or just be emotional. You're not just creating a tribe of, you know, of crybabies, right? Aries can be very childlike, but it's also very powerful, right? And not that childlike energy is not amazing and strong and it can't get things done. It can. You have very strong childlike energies in you. You know, it's like you're a new old soul, right? You know, and I know you know exactly what I mean by that. So let those emotions lead you to those places, and I know you're strong, and you know you're strong, but you know that you also need assistance from time to time. All of us do. Like, if we didn't need help, there wouldn't be other people, right? And if the people around us can't help, won't help, then we're not obviously helping them either. That we're being used, and that's different. That's very different. That's much more about you know, your first house and your seventh house, right? Like, are you being useful, right? Or do people value you? And that helps you balance, right? Seventh house. But if you're being used, right, that will, you know, kind of direct you to go to somewhere new in the world. Like, okay, I'm getting used here. I'm out. I'm not being useful. I'm not being valued. I'm out. All right. This is also your nodal placements in a different kind of way, right? It's also cardinal energy, right? You're being an Aries sun. That's where the sun is at its power. And there and in Leo. And I'm going to bridge the sun thing here soon, because I'm going to talk about your upcoming birthday, so other people can understand what they're going through. So again, allow yourself to be nurtured. Nurture your tribe, create one, right? Because you are creating that tribe all the time, daily, right? Through your through allowing those emotions and intuition and to guide you out into the world, so that you are that stable thing, and you are a stable thing, right? Both of those are the same thing, and that's going to shore your mind up and make your mind much stronger than it used to be, and still allow you to forward think, right, in a unique way, the way you want to. Okay, I know this is getting long, so I'm going to try to keep these things short. And it's funny that I'm going into Gemini, which, Tiffany, is your 8th house, and that begins at 0 degrees of Gemini, and that is ruled by your Mercury. So when you are trusting yourself and your words, and trusting where you're directing your mind and your communication, allows you to trust yourself more, and anybody that engages with you in that way does create magic, does create trust in you, and allows you to trust them more. Anybody that speaks directly to you in a service-oriented way, because that's also about your 11th house. Like, your friends are people of service, people who work, right? Your friends might also be the people that you work with, but not all of them, and you may not have known exactly why. The people that you don't connect with wherever it is you work are people that are not assisting you in your spiritual and your trust path, right? They're not going to be the ones that are going to help you build that tribe, right? They're just not part of your tribe. They're at work, so what? Okay, but they're not part of your tribe, right? Your 11th house, being Virgo, is, you improve yourself out in the world through your friends, and through your ideals, and those are magically oriented, and those things transform you, right? And let's go into go from Mercury. We'll go over to the blue line that connects to Pluto, and I forgot to do Pluto, so let's do that now. All right. Pluto is transformation. He is the dark, scary, subconscious parts of Scorpio that we generally can't think our way into. We know when we break through something. We know when something breaks down. That's Pluto, right? When something just breaks, it's done. Crash. And that's how we evolve, right? Your Tiffany, your Venus in Pisces, your magical nature has hit trust barriers and trust walls with people before. And you were creating things with people, and then you're like, hey, I'm going to create this thing, or this new thing is happening in me, and it broke them. And part of you was like, oh, well, that sucks. And that's what Pisces is. It's the breaking of the connection. It's the dissolving. But with Scorpio, it's very light switchy. It's like, this is done. Boop, over. But when that's over, right, that transforms the next way you project out into the world, right? And, your Venus is also very much involved in your spiritual development. Again, because it's Pisces, it's the last astrological sign, the sign of magic, and we've talked about that. It also rules your 12th house of Libra, of relationships. So your balance is very much magical, mystical, subconscious, and whether you are creating that or not. You can kind of, it's probably easier for you to watch yourself go through your day, right? Your day to day, and you're like, okay, this is not working, that's not working, this is working, I'm feeling better, I'm not feeling better, what am I going after, what am I seeking? You know, using that Mercury, and letting it, you know, connect with how you feel about everything, literally, and feeling that and thinking about those processes in your mind, but not being worrisome about it, like releasing it, letting it go, letting it be, right? Feel the emotion, let it move through, you know, think about it, look at your process. Okay, is this working? Do I feel balanced? Right? Because you're not going to be able to think about balance. You're going to be like, you know, are these things, you know, do I feel balanced in these things? What of these things do I value? Where's my value being placed? Am I valuing myself? Am I valuing other people? Am I the highest value that I can be? Am I creating value? Right? Because you create value and balance in yourself, and it is of a magical nature. It is of a kind of, you know, there's not details about it, but as you go farther into it, they do solidify. So, okay. That's Pluto, that's breaking through, that's 12th house. And the next thing is going to be about your upcoming birthday. Okie dokie. So this year, your solar return, the sun, will get to 13 degrees and 33 minutes of Aries. The day after, you know, normally when you would celebrate your birthday on April 2nd, it will be the following day. Instead of being at 8:30 at night, you know, the day you were born, it will be at 10 o'clock the following morning, right? And obviously very different because of planets moving forward and everything else. But this is a, you know, every year we start new. We start a new us. You know, human beings are cycles and cycles. And they, you know, we always are always moving forward. And the moments that we come into that we're having difficulty with is our, instead of just evolution, it's trying to be transformational. It's trying to break through so that we can be, you know, in the moment as much as possible. And that's also what sixth house placements are about, right? Tiffany, you have an intuition about where to be, what to do, what action to take. And being in the moment is something that you have been learning. You're generally in the moment anyway, but knowing you're in the moment is something that's on another level. So, okay. So the sun, at, you know, 1333 on 3rd of April, right? This is your transit chart for that day. Remember your Chiron up there in the 9th house in Leo, right? The current transit in Chiron is very close to your sun, and it's been in Aries for several years. It spends a lot of time in Aries. So, you know, several years ago, it was about, you know, creation and kids and romance and stuff like that. And now it is closer to your sun. So you're identifying yourself maybe as somebody who's kind of damaged or broken, but being an Aries sun actually really helps with this, right? Jupiter currently is closing in on Chiron, so the experience that you've gained out in the world is going to help you move forward with that, right? It's going to help you engage with that pain, but you're not, you know, you might be hurt, but you're not injured, right? That's the difference between can you continue or do you have to sit down? And from time to time, life will tell us, sit down, right? I've had those moments where, you know, I was trying to move forward, and life didn't give me the choice after a while. It was like, okay, I asked you, now I'm demanding, right? There are those moments where we cannot move forward. With another element that's very big here, that is transforming your relationships, your balance, right? Your values and your home life is Uranus there in Taurus is at a square point with your Saturn, right? It is in square, as they say, and Uranus is a slow mover. He takes a long time. Venus is closing in on it now. I'm not going to bother putting that chart up because that would be too much. Valentine's Day, it's, Venus was close to Neptune, and, she's moving really fast now, so she's going to zoom over all this stuff. In between now and your birthday, now and your solar return, you're gonna be feeling, some stuff about your communication, and then you're gonna be probably in your big feels about yourself, and then you're like, oh, I don't necessarily feel good about me, and how am I supposed to move forward with feeling like this? But you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to take some action. I'm gonna have to do some stuff. Like, this. Mercury right now, by then it's gonna be almost in Taurus, right? It's still in your 6th house, so you're still, by your birthday, you'll definitely be talking about your daily life, and you'll be thinking about it directly. And you're trying to direct yourself about relationships and get balanced, which is part of this overall process that you've been on, right? Let's see what else. We've got Saturn closing in. He was by your birthday, he's already in Pisces. Now that's going to change your home life. That's going to change how you feel safe in a very big way, right? Because the last time that Saturn was in Pisces was in the early 90s. It was, just a couple of years after you were born. So you obviously don't remember that. And now this is going to be, a benchmark. In, another 30 years, you're going to, you're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember how that felt. And Mars and Saturn, they like each other. They're very directing, right? And, Saturn there at, 2 degrees of Pisces is in a trine, which is about 120-degree angle, just a little bit short of it, because Mars is in Cancer, very much on your south node in the 9th. And so this is about, feeling you've gained some experience, you've gained some momentum, you've gained some authority at home and out in the world, and you're understanding how to drive and how to go get that more, and how to receive care. And you might be really needing it, right? I think you can kind of feel that, but the transition between Aquarius and Pisces, for most people, especially with Saturn moving out of his rulership, in Aquarius into Pisces, where he has no power and control. And this is for anybody that's listening to this also. Don't give up before the magic hits. The magic is coming. It is coming. The connection is coming, right? That thing that you need, that thing that you're desiring, that thing that you want, you have put in the time. You have bought the ticket. You have it in your pocket. You're standing on the train platform. Just wait for the train, right? You might talk to the other passengers while they're waiting for the train. You might play with your phone, or just stand there and listen to the things going on and watch the other trains come and go. Your train is coming. You have the ticket. You've put the time in. You have worked really hard. And the universe knows this, right? This is the third step in the process of law of attraction. This is acceptance. Accept the magic. Let it happen. It will, right? This is like building a fire. You put all the elements of the fire together and you strike it, and you're letting the flames move up a little bit, and you kind of have to guide it, but you're not messing with it directly, because if you poke it too much, you mess around with it too much, you can put it out, right? Let the fire do what it's going to do. And if it starts to go out, watch it for a second. Okay, now I do have to get involved here. And again, that's magically connecting with what the fire is trying to do, right? This is the same thing with Saturn moving into Pisces. And this is also going to give you a powerful new sense of how to receive care, Tiffany, and how to give care to people. And I know it's going to be both, right? It's going to be both. Things might not look great, right? But they are unfolding in a magical way that is going to make you the best you, a better you than you could possibly have imagined, right? And again, I expect this is going to be very foreign. It's going to be very, transformational. The moon just a couple of days, maybe a day or so before your birthday, when it's on your Jupiter there at 5 degrees, a little bit earlier than that maybe. So the last week of March, at some point during that last week of March, a little less than a couple, the last day, first day of April or whatever, there's going to be some kind of big breakthrough, man. Your mind, your communication, you're just gonna know, right? It's just gonna click. There's gonna be something, whether it's about your daily life or your friends. I think it might come from your friends. And then again, maybe, it could be that all this yammering that I'm doing about astrology might finally click in your head and you might understand it. You can also see there's a lot going on with, in your third house with your Uranus and your Neptune. And that's also going back to the transiting Uranus and Taurus. Your relationships, your value is being transformed, right? The way you engage with your magic. So however you do that, if it is actual magic, if it's just things you create, your artwork or whatever it is you're creating, you're transforming here, woman. You are definitely in a transformational process, as all of us are. And yours is no less big than, no smaller than anybody else's. All right, everybody and Tiffany, this is something else that I can do for folks every year. We always change. We're cycles. We are a forward-moving cycle, fractaling through the universe. And this upcoming year, Tiffany is going from being in a 7th house year, which is about relationships and balance and value, and her Venus being in Pisces is very much about connection or dissolving, right? That's either going to connect or it's going to dissolve, right? So this is your solar return chart, Tiffany. So for the next year, you will be feeling more like a Gemini rising. This is kind of like a higher self guiding you, right, into these communication spaces, right? With your 10th house in Aquarius, to be a friend, to connect with friends, to create legacy with friends. And with Saturn and Pisces there at 2 degrees by April 23rd, you are going to want stable foundation with them, right? And if it's not going to be stable foundation with people, nope, you're going to Aquarius your way right out and vibe right out of it and just let it dissolve. Like, it's either foundation or nothing, right? Again, that's also about your natal North Node in Capricorn, right? Your Mars being in Cancer, this next year, so that you can, have a year of rebirth, right? We talked about that, going from the 7th house into that 8th house year. Sorry, I let that graphic stay up for a second because I know I just kind of bounced over it too fast. So the 8th house year is about rebirth, right? It's about finances. It's about, inheritance and trusts and triggers and intimacy of all kinds. And I know all of us enjoy intimacy. We enjoy being safe, right? Tiffany, this solar return chart is how you're going to create that safety. And with the 8th house being in Capricorn, right, for this year, this is kind of like, again, like I said, like a higher self. You want, stability there. You want a legacy of safety, of emotional safety. And the way you're going to do that is through your foundations, right? Through your beliefs and philosophies and through your tribe. And they are going to break through. It's going to be, again, it's going to be magic tribe, or it's going to be magical or nothing, right? If you connect with me, cool. If you're not connected with me, also cool. See you later. No big deal, right? So let me go back to that Cancer Mars there. In the 2nd house, again, it's about seeking of the nurturing, right? You are going to want to nurture things that are valuable. Second house, which is also values. And, you know, Tiffany, anything that you nurture is going to grow, and it's going to take time. It's like planting a seed. Like, you know, farmers plant seeds and then they wait, right? Like, okay, did we get enough rain? I don't know if we got enough rain. Let's go out and water the crops. Is this still leave them alone? We're not going to dig them up, right? You know, till the soil and you set it up and you feed the soil, and then you wait for the right time and you plant the seeds and you cover them back up and you fill them, you know, fill the holes up, and then you water it and you might fertilize it on top of that, and then you just leave it. And as they come up, as they begin to show after a while, Taurus physical takes time, right? Everybody knows Taurus energy does take time. You're going to see that nurturing grow inside of you and other people, right? Don't let anybody demand nurturing from you. That's going to be something else. Like, people from your past might try to demand that from you and destabilize you. Hold your line. Saturn has been in Aquarius for several years. It's been teaching you to hold your line. And when you do, you are going to feel better. You are going to feel emotionally stronger. And that's also part of this. You're going to be the magic out in the world for people, right? You're going to be, you know, very much healing yourself out in the world, maybe out on social media, perhaps, but it's going to be, you know, and when you are, it's going to be magical. It's going to be valuable, and you're going to feel it. Like you're going to feel this surge, like, wow, I did not know that I could feel like this. I didn't know that my feelings were this valuable. I didn't know that my intuition was this tapped in, this turned on. The, you know, part of the foundation of this is, you know, that South Node in Scorpio, and, you know, in your daily life. And that's about trust, right? Trusting yourself to create that balance, and trusting people that are invested, right? Are you invested in me? Are you invested in my life? And if you're not invested in me, that's fine. I'm going to find somebody that is, right? And when they are invested, that's going to create a subconscious trigger in you, and your communication is really going to open up. It's going to be like, I don't know if you could tell, but through this reading, my voice has leveled out. It's gotten stronger. I haven't had to cough or stop or pause to go back. And, you know, it's, as I've gone through the reading, it's very interesting. It's been doing that. So using your voice and allowing yourself to feel that experience that you have gained that has been hard fought is definitely something that's going to come out this next year. So you're going to be seeking your level. You're going to be seeking those people that are your mirrors, and communicating with people, and your relationships are going to be about those belief systems and about experience. So it's going to be kind of cool, and you will be definitely creating, new ways of valuing yourself and your work. And that's going to create more balance with you. So, thank you for taking the time to listen, Tiffany, and anybody else that's tapping in here. All of us are transforming. We're all breaking through here, and we need all of us. And Tiffany, I'm glad that I found you on that social media platform, and I hope that it continues to go, because I have enjoyed your videos. Everybody else, thank you for listening to me yammer on. This is North Node Astrology. I have a new website that it's also in the description, and you can find my other social media platforms through that website. And again, have a nice day, and I hope your transformation is something that you've been looking forward to, and I hope some cool stuff comes to you.